I am so tired of hearing the same tips and tricks that are out there when we are searching on how in the world to help our kids that are struggling with attention, how to get them to pay attention, how to get them to focus, right? I may have been even guilty of using one or two of them myself because they seem like such a quick and easy fix, right? They seem like obviously they're going to work. But if you're watching this video with me, you know that you've tried them before, they haven't worked. So I'm here to give you a brand new, fresh perspective and a fresh strategy on how to get your child to improve their attention so that they can begin to focus. Now, some of the things I'm going to share with you today are not as obvious, right, as some of the other things we have seen. For example, very common what we see out there is let's use punishments and consequences to help our kids pay attention. Guess what, folks? We can't consequent and punish our kids through struggles that they're already having to make them pay attention. All that does is make them fearful, make them feel bad about themselves. And if it does give them a fix and helps them like snap into focusing, it's really just for that moment and they don't really get to build upon anything. So it's a quick fix that probably doesn't work. And if it does, it won't work for long. This one is always so well intended, but I can't tell you how much I freaking hate it. Telling them to try harder. You're just gonna have to try harder. If you tried harder, you would be able to focus. If you tried harder, you would be able to pay attention. Well, all that does is make this little person feel really bad about themselves because guess what? Chances are they're really trying and they can't get it. Then this one, we would think it would work because it would just show them the right way to do it. But this one is almost like shaming them. You know, you really need to be more responsible for cleaning your room. You need to pay attention to what you're doing when you're making yourself breakfast. You need to pay attention when you're writing the answers. Great, that's fine and dandy for us to say it, but saying you need to pay attention is not specific and is not explicit enough to actually re-engineer the problem and actually give our child, student, a solution so that they can do it better. So that one doesn't work either. Now this one tip and trick that's out there, this one we find a lot in IEPs, 504s, accommodations for the schools, and they do work at the time, but again, they don't really help to improve attention and focus in a way that's going to help the child student kind of rise up over their struggles so that they can start compensating for this challenge that they have. And this is physical and verbal cues. So that looks like tapping on the shoulder, walking around the classroom, tapping on the shoulder again. That looks like tapping on the desk. That looks like, hey Maria, finish your spelling words. That looks like us peeking into the room and saying, hey, are you working on your outline? Then what that does is at the moment, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, let me get this doing. But however long their attention span is, it's gonna require yet another cue. So this is a quick fix that usually does work. However, if you are in it for the long haul and you really want to build that attention and the skills so that your child can focus and have an easier time focusing, that one's not going to work either. The strategy that I'm going to share with you is what's going to help you as the parent, as the awesome adult teacher, to know which lever to pull when it comes to attention so that this child student can start to build the skills, and you can also help them build the skills in the right way, in a way that's going to make a difference and in a way that's going to carry over from activity to activity, right? This strategy is going to help you go from frustrated and worried and confused that you don't know how to help to giving you a solid strategy that is proven, and it's something that I use with my clients directly, so I know it works. Knowing the two parts of attention is super important, and it's something nobody talks about, because once you know the two parts of the attention, you can figure out which one of these parts is it that your child is struggling the most. Then you're going to know what resources to pull. You're going to know how to scaffold better. You're going to know what lever to pull so that you can do things that are going to help them focus. I'm also going to share what we can actually do, almost like hacks that you can do to help bridge each one of these pieces of attention to wherever your child is and where they need to be. It's going to help us bridge the gap. So make sure you stick to the video so you can hear that. First part of attention, super important, obvious almost, task initiation. Our brain needs to have a certain amount of attention and focus so that we can start the task. If your child cannot get started on the task, do not pass go. You have figured out a lot of where it's struggling with attention. This is the most important part of completing a task, right? Because if we can't get started, guess what? We're not going to finish it. Second part of attention is completing the task, having enough endurance of your attention to complete the steps of the task and get to the end, right? Doesn't do us any good if we start a task and just stop midway, or even worse, when they stop when they're so close to the end. So task initiation and task completion are the two most common parts of attention, especially when we relate it to executive functioning skills. Are you ready for the attention hacks? This is incorporating some executive functioning skills into building, boosting your child's attention and focus. Here we go. It's actually a very common term used in the education system, but here it is. You may or may not have heard it before, and I'm going to give you some specific examples on how you can use them. I want you to start chunking tasks, activities, really breaking them down into bite-sized morsels. We don't eat a cheeseburger all in one big gulp, right? So I want you to think of our kids when they're struggling with starting an activity because of attention. We want to make it as easy as possible and we want to build in wins. That's how we actually improve and scaffold their attention and their ability to focus. Not by the things we mentioned at the beginning that actually just get them more frustrated and prove to them, oh, I can't pay attention anyways. The way I'm teaching you right now using these hacks is going to build in wins. So I want you to remove the idea that's probably popping into your head right now that we're just making it too easy for them and they're never going to learn. No, the way they learn and the way we can help them scaffold is by giving them these micro wins. And for attention and completing assignments is just literally taking the assignment and going like this and shrinking it so that it is a manageable chunk, a manageable bite of that cheeseburger that they can accomplish. So here's what it looks like. It looks like giving them the assignment and then saying, hey, Jimmy, I want you to start with problem number 1. Giving them a cue. Here's where we start. We're starting with number 1. A lot of times I suggest to flip the script and say, hey, Jimmy, I want you to start with problem number 5 and then get back to me. Now, all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, everybody's starting with number 1. You want me to start with number 5 and then you want me to get back to you? We're onto something, right? So if anything, you just disrupt their normal attention pattern, which is probably not to get started or not to pay attention. Another way to do this is to give them a specific almost like a specific activity that they have to piggyback on. So the minute you're done with breakfast, you get to go get your backpack and your water bottle. So then it's like breakfast, backpack, water bottle. That's very different than I need you to get ready to go, right? I need you to get ready to go can look very different for me, can look very different for you. And our friends that are struggling with attention, it can look way, way different, right? So when we are specific, breakfast, backpack, water bottle, then all of a sudden we have a cue. Right after breakfast is done, we move on to the next. And here is another tip that I love that really works well. instead of giving them the whole assignment, if this is happening at school, instead of giving them the whole thing you want them to do, for example, cleaning your room, or if they have to do an outline, let's dial it back. Let's chunk it back to, I want you to clean your desktop. I want you to organize your shoes. I want you to start the introduction paragraph of your outline, and I want you to show it to me. I have a group of intermediate 4th, 5th, 6th graders, and this was the number one thing that they said what they found so helpful was, instead of having to look at their whole gigantic closet and be like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster, instead of looking at that worksheet that had 52 math problems, being able to stop and break it down and say, I'm going to do 10 at a time. I'm going to do this section of my closet instead of the whole thing. So with the 2 parts of attention, we've got task initiation, sustained attention, so we can get to task completion. We've got the hacks. The one thing that you need to check out is you need to figure out, can your child prioritize? And can they be productive and stop the procrastination? This next video here is going to show you exactly how to stop the procrastination, which also folds right into the theme of attention that so many of us are struggling with. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.